At its peak, the Roman Empire ruled 70 million people. One man came closer to ending it than any barbarian, any emperor, any plague. You have never heard his name. Before we get to him, you need to understand what Rome was. Not the marble, not the togas, not the gladiators. Rome was a machine built on one thing: loyalty. Senators loyal to the emperor, generals loyal to Rome, legions loyal to the generals. The whole system, one vast web of obedience. But webs have a weakness. Find the right thread, pull it, and everything unravels. Our story begins in the 3rd century AD, a period historians call the crisis of the 3rd century. A 50-year stretch so catastrophic, so violent, so near apocalyptic that 26 men would claim the title of emperor. 26. Most lasted less than a year. Most died screaming. Into this chaos stepped a man named Marcus Cassianius Latinius Postumus. You don't know that name. You should. He was a Roman general, a decorated one, battle-hardened, politically brilliant, and, crucially, deeply beloved by his troops. In 260 AD, the Emperor Valerian had just been captured by the Persians. Think about what that means. The ruler of the known world, taken prisoner by a foreign king. The Roman Empire didn't just lose a battle, it lost its face. Panic flooded the provinces. The Rhine frontier, the empire's western wall, was seconds away from collapse. So Postumus did what any brilliant, ambitious man does in a power vacuum. He filled it. Here's where the story gets dark. Really dark. Postumus didn't just defend the frontier. He declared himself emperor. Not of Rome, not of the East, not of some forgotten province. He declared himself emperor of a separate Roman state. He called it the Gallic Empire. Britain, Gaul, Spain, Germania, the wealthiest, most militarily powerful western provinces of Rome, gone, overnight, ripped away from the empire like a limb from a body. And here's what the history books quietly skip over. He succeeded. For 14 years, he ran a fully functioning parallel Roman civilization with its own senate, its own consuls, its own currency, its own legal system. Not a rebellion, not a coup, a rival Rome. Now you might be thinking, okay, rogue general, power grab, standard Roman chaos. But stop, because Postumus was not the villain of this story. He didn't want to conquer Rome. He didn't want to march on the Capitol, dethrone the emperor, burn the Senate. He explicitly said so, multiple times. His Gallic Empire had one stated purpose: to protect the West. And here's the gut punch. He did. Under Postumus, the Germanic tribes, the Franks, the Alemanni, were stopped cold at the Rhine. The raids that had been bleeding Gaul for decades ended. The roads were maintained, the courts functioned, the economy stabilized, while Rome, the real Rome, descended into murder, civil war, and economic collapse. The Gallic Empire thrived. Ask yourself, who was really Rome here? But Rome wasn't going to let this stand. Emperor Gallienus, Valerian's son, inheritor of an empire held together with prayers and prayers alone, looked west. and saw something that terrified him more than any barbarian horde. A working Roman state, not his. He launched campaign after campaign to retake the Gallic provinces, and failed. Every single time. In one battle, Gallienus himself was hit by an arrow. He survived, barely. The man who had broken Rome's western spine had just nearly killed its emperor. At this moment, 263 AD, Postumus could have marched on Rome. His armies were stronger. His supply lines were intact. His soldiers worshipped him. He had everything he needed, and he didn't move. Why? Because Postumus was at his core a Roman, not a king, not a conqueror, not a tyrant, a soldier. Roman soldiers didn't march on Rome, not real ones, not ones who still believed in what Rome was supposed to be. He had taken the West to save it, not to own it. His coins didn't say destroyer of Rome. They said restorer of Gaul, father of the provinces. He saw himself as a caretaker, a guardian, a Roman, holding the line, while Rome itself forgot what that meant. It's one of the most extraordinary acts of self-restraint in military history. A man with an empire at his fingertips, who kept his hands to himself. In 269 AD, a subordinate general named Laelianus rebelled against Postumus. A small revolt, contained quickly. Postumus crushed it. And then, in what should have been his moment of triumph, he made one decision. One. He refused to let his soldiers loot the captured city of Moguntiacum. That was the deal. That was always the deal. You fight, you win, you take. Postumus said no. He was trying to protect Roman citizens from Roman soldiers. It cost him everything. His own troops, the men who had followed him for 9 years, the men who had beaten back every Germanic raid, every Roman counterattack. They mutinied, and they killed him. The man who almost destroyed Rome was destroyed by the very thing he was trying to preserve, his own loyalty to Roman values. After Postumus died, the Gallic Empire fractured. 2 more men tried to hold it together. Both failed. By 274 AD, Emperor Aurelian had reunified the Roman Empire. History calls this a triumph, but look closer. The Rhine frontier that Postumus had held for 14 years, it began to crumble within a generation. The Germanic tribes he had stopped cold, they were back. 200 years later, Rome fell, and the provinces Postumus had protected, Gaul, Britain, Spain, became the core of what we now call Western Europe. France, England, Spain, countries that exist because a Roman general decided to hold a line Rome itself couldn't hold. So ask yourself a different question. What if Postumus had marched on Rome? What if he had become emperor? A man who stopped invasions, who maintained order, who exercised restraint when he had every reason not to. Could he have prevented the fall? We'll never know. History doesn't give us second chances. History remembers the men who burned things down. Caesar, Nero, Attila. Their names are in every textbook, every movie, every conversation. History forgets the men who held things together, the men who stood at the edge of collapse and said, "Not today." Postumus held the Western world together for 14 years. 14 years of roads maintained, borders defended, courts functioning, children going to school, farmers growing food. 14 years of civilization quietly sustained by a man whose name you didn't know this morning. That's not a footnote. That's the story of history. The invisible men, the quiet architects, the guardians nobody writes songs about. We celebrate the ones who lit the fire. We forget the ones who kept it from burning everything down. Postumus kept it from burning down, and we forgot him anyway. The Roman Empire didn't fall because of the barbarians. It fell because it ran out of men like Postumus. And the terrifying part, so might we.